point of view, right? So you mentioned Phil Manzanera. He's a very nice guy. I
Yeah.
go to London like well, UK in general, like 3 times a year. So I was in London last month in March, and I visit Phil Manzanera's studio. He's a very nice person. He's a very
He's a
good
very
guy
nice.
too.
He's a lovely man. Really
Yeah,
is.
he's a very good guy. Yeah.
Yeah, we obviously spent quite a bit of time together on
Mm.
a couple of projects, couple of Floyd projects. I mean, doing Endless River, and then
That's right.
Rattle That Lock. And Phil was very involved in both of those. So yeah, we spent a lot of time together, and and I've done little bits and pieces mastering for him and things. Yeah, he's a great guy, and he's got some really interesting things that he brings to it.
Yeah.
If nothing else, he spent a lot of time around Brian Eno, so a lot of that sort of rubbed off, and some of the way that Roxy Music was an interesting band because they weren't primarily musicians; they were all art students.
That's right.
And they approached it in a completely different way. And I suppose Brian Eno is the most obvious and notable one of that. The way that he brings that whole idea of if you change the way you work, then you make something different, and that's interesting. So, even to the extent of like, let's make a record where we all stand up rather than sit down, and things like, even simple things like that. And it just changes the way you think about things. And he produced those oblique strategy cards, which is a physical set of cards, and it's now an app as well, which just throws it's just little phrases, and you just if you don't know what to do, you draw a card and it'll say something, and it's just like, well, what does that mean, and how do I follow that? So I don't know, whatever. Decorate. That's one that I've been thrown at. So I use that a lot in the process of doing things. In fact, there's a picture of the cards in the album artwork. Phil has some really interesting stuff that he'll bring to it, and he's very organized as well. He was really useful for David. David has a whole bunch of ideas and little scraps and pieces and things like that. And Phil was very good about, cataloguing it all and saying, well, this one would go with that one. What happens if you glue those two bits and bring those two bits together and things like that? So, yeah, he was a very useful foil for David to work off and help David reorganize it.
Yeah. Phil Manzanera was telling me that David Gilmour kind of, it's difficult for him to commit to something. It will take a long time, right? So I was asking Phil, David Gilmour, are you guys planning on touring together again, put a new album together, helping out David? He says it's going to take a while because David Gilmour take a long time to do anything, right? So somebody to push him. So I say, like a track a month? No, even that.
Oh no, absolutely, yeah.
They have done well financially. All the Pink Floyd guys have done well financially in their life. They don't have to work. They don't have to wake up every morning or whatever.
No.
So they will only do it when they want to do it, or when they allocate time for their busy life to do it. So it's like music. It's a little bit on the background, as opposed to you are an upcoming musician. You need to work on the stuff because you make a living doing that, right? So you need to tour because you make money touring. People don't buy records or CDs anymore like they used to. So as an upcoming musician, you are forced to write. You are forced to put a record every 2 years so you can tour with the new album and then make some money, right? But the Pink Floyd guy or the Led Zeppelin guy or whatever, the Genesis guy, they're well off, so they don't have to do it, right?
No, but you do it because you want to. You do it because that's what you do. I mean, it's interesting. I always think a good example, you mentioned Zeppelin there. It's really interesting the way that Robert Plant has been over the last decade or two, where he's found things that interest him, working with other people, where he did the two projects of working with female singers and things like that. And he just keeps making new music. And it's music that you haven't heard before, and music that he hasn't done before, and it's nothing like Led Zeppelin, and he's singing.
That's right.
And I think Robert's really admirable, like that. Yeah, David's very good at expanding. He's very good at, like, here's more ideas, and he'll find more and more things to bring to a song. But what he doesn't have so much the strength is the idea of then restricting, of subtracting, which is why it was such a productive period of him and Roger working well together, because David's really good at expanding and Roger's really good at restricting. So Roger would be really, really good at saying, get rid of that, that's the point, do that, let's do, like really narrowing the focus of something, whereas David would be very good at expanding the focus of something. So it was a great combination, but of course that always leads to conflict as well, because it's the same with so many great writing partnerships. It's the conflict between them that makes the creative thing, but it becomes unbearable after a while. So, the other classic one, of course, was Lennon and McCartney, where they were so good working together because they were each other's biggest critics.
That's right.
What do you think of this? That's rubbish. Okay, do better, and it becomes untenable after a while. So, yeah, David's very good at expansion, but and he doesn't do things because he does. I mean, he's working on a project now, but he's been working on that project for a long time because he keeps expanding. So eventually he'll have to say it's finished, and then probably I've not been involved because he can do it at home, and he has been. I'm only involved if he wants to do drum tracks or something, because he doesn't have the skill set to record that. But then somebody's got to come in and help sort it out. That's right. That may be me. Right. I don't know. So yeah.
In the 73 states at sea, you end up you had guest appearances from David Jackson as well as Anne-Marie Helder, right? Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, well, Anne-Marie came about. I was very aware I wanted a girl singer on one of the songs. Yeah. And I thought about, I'd been in that band Eden House for a while, which had a succession of girl singers, and I thought about any of those, but none of them really seemed to be what I was looking for. And I didn't know Anne-Marie's work, but I just thought, well, where I've got a contact through is through the record company, through Esoteric. So I just looked at all the bands that were on Esoteric that had girl singers and came across her. I thought, okay, well, I like her voice. And so I just made the approach through the record company. I just said, hey, hello, heard your stuff, like it. Do you want to sing a song? She said, yeah, okay. And David Jackson was again through the record company, because there's connections there, because Van de Graaff Generator are now on Esoteric. And he was a hero. That was one of the, like Van de Graaff was one of the bands that I listened to. We're talking about what did I listen to when I was 16 or 17? Well, Van de Graaff Generator, and I love that stuff. And I love David's playing. So it's the same thing. I just, through the record company, I said, hello, this is me. That's you. I love your stuff. Do you want to play on this record? And he said, yeah, sure. And in both cases, I mean, because of modern technology, I've never met either of them. I sent them the track and they did it and sent it back, and it's like, yeah, great, thank you. So,
wow, yeah,
it gave me a few options, and I picked through it and got the thing on. So I've never met David or Anne-Marie. So
wow, it's amazing now with the level of technology that we have. Like this instance, right? I never met you. We talk over the internet, and
yeah.
People back in the day when you were working with all the Pink Floyd guys. You go in the studio and you are 10 hours a day, and you accomplish a track or half a track, and then you go back 2 days later and you put another piece, and it's it was very, very expensive because there's hours of hours studio time, as you know, they're very expensive. Nowadays, you have a $2,000 computer or whatever, and then you say track back and forth. Hey, can you change that? This and that, and then you can put it together within a couple of days or 3 days. It's amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the great democratization of technology.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when I started Utopia Studios in London, I mean, it was so expensive to make a record. It was just astronomical, but there was no choice. That was all you could do. It was the only way you could make a record. Whereas now, as you say, I mean, what it would cost to do one day in that studio, now you can go out and, buy yourself an Apple Mac and some software and make a record at home. And a little interface and a pair of headphones, and there you go. And essentially, that's essentially what I've got. I mean, I've got, a slightly better version of that, but it's, I've got an Apple Mac and some bits of digital gear, and that's it really, and a couple of mics. And it's not anything that anybody else couldn't have. And the flip side of it is that there's a lot of expertise lost. So just things like, I mean, in terms of what I do, engineering, that you would have made records back then, and they would have been made by really good people that were engineers for a living, and now they're made by the guitarist who's bought a computer, and they don't they don't really know how to do it well. And certainly, when I was still mastering stuff, you get through stuff that was essentially made like that, and it's just like, oh Jesus, this sounds, this just sounds so bad, and you just try and sort it out a bit, but it's because it's made by people that don't have a level of expertise, and that's sort of gone. And when I started, there was a whole family tree of engineers. So, you start off with, my family tree, there was a guy called John Hudson who started off at the BBC and then ended up running Mayfair Studios. And he did loads of great stuff, Tina Turner and all sorts of things. And he trained James Guthrie, and then James Guthrie trained me, and then I trained, and so on and so on. You get this succession of this skill set passed down the line. Yeah. And that's gone now. There's almost no professional recording studios left, apart from a handful that do orchestral stuff and things like that. And people are trying to rediscover how to do it properly, and it's just like, well, do you understand how to use a microphone properly? And it's like, no, they don't. So there's a downside to it, but the upside is this massive democratization, which is that anybody can make a record. They just necessarily won't make a great record, but they can make a record. And I think, overall, that's a net positive, undeniably. And I guess logically in time technology, if you think about AI, it will be like you'll be able to just tell the computer, I want this to sound like a Motown record, and it will do it for, and it will be able to do it for you. And the skill set will be there in the AI. Nobody knows how to make barrels or make wheels out of wood anymore, because they're skills we don't need. And you can say, oh, the old barrel making skills have disappeared. It's like, well, we don't need it. That's why, and actually barrels now are better than barrels used to be when they were made by hand, and now we don't need that stuff anymore. So, of course, that's back to the conversation about AI, and people are saying, well, we don't need journalism anymore, and we don't need this anymore, and we don't need that. And maybe some of those things are true, that, it will just be able to do it better than we ever could. I don't know. We'll see.
So what's happened in your profession with all these professionals that used to work at Utopia, tried in the studios? Yeah. Talking to Nick Davis, I met him in London as well last month, and the farm disappeared. Genesis, the console was getting old, dusty, and nobody was, let's get rid of stuff, sell everything, and so what's happened with those to your profession? What's happened with all those recording engineers that used to work in the studios and now they don't need anymore? What they do for a living?
Well, we're all retiring. You know.
No, you cannot retire.
Well, my generation, well, I'm 65, so so my generation are all 65 and beyond, and some of them keep going, and there's these younger guys, and new guys come through, but new people come through, but I don't know. I don't pay any attention to it, to be honest. I've no idea.
Yeah.
So,
well, Abbey Road is always busy.
Oh yeah.
I'm not a musician, but everybody want to say that age. Hey, my album was recorded and mixed at Abbey Road Studios, as if was the last thing, or Peter Gabriel, the real world studio. He, a studio, no computer, no.
Yeah.
I like to do the real thing. I don't know what benefit, pros and cons, I suppose, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, Abbey Road obviously has a unique position that keeps it going about doing orchestral stuff and movies and things like that, and that's what keeps it alive. And you say about Real World or something like that, well, that's that belongs to Peter, and I don't suppose it's economically viable without Peter propping it up. I don't know, but I wouldn't have thought so.
Yeah.
I remember hearing just on a forum a great story about a mastering engineer, and he was doing an album, and it had been done by different engineers, different tracks, and he said there was one track on it that just sounded so much better than anybody else, and it was engineered by Al Schmidt, who was absolutely legendary. He's recently died, actually, Al, but he was Al Schmidt won the Grammy every year, it seems, the Grammy for Best Engineered Album. He was just brilliant. And this mastering engineer was saying the track that Al did sounded so much better than anybody else's. And so he phoned Al up and said, "Oh, I heard this track you did, and it sounds fantastic." And Al said, "Oh, do you think it's okay? I had to mix it in the computer. I couldn't do it on an analog console. Is it okay?" So It's just, okay, yeah, all right. Well, it's just like, I tell you what makes the difference, Al, is you, kind of thing. And I stuck out with analog for a long time, and then there was a certain point where the technology got where you got classic pieces of analog gear, and then you got the digital representations of them. And I very carefully set up a mix using analog gear, and then I matched it exactly using, the pictures of it, the drawings of it on a computer, and made two versions of it, one done each way. And then I sat with Damon down at David's studio, and we listened to them. And the way we do it as well is one of us operates is like switch, switch, switch between the two things. And so you don't know which one you're listening to. It's just like, here's one, here's the other. First one, second one, first one, second one, switching between them. And then we change positions, and the other one does the switching, and the other one listens to it. So you don't know which one's which. And it's just like, I like the first one best or the second one best. And we both absolutely picked the one that was done not analog, the one that was done with the computer. And it's like, okay, right, that's the end of that then. And David's studio has got so much fantastic analog gear, none of which ever gets turned on anymore. We just don't use it, because this stuff it's the same but better. It's the same, but it doesn't have the noise, and it doesn't, it's just. So it's another fantastic democratization of technology. If you spend after buying your Apple Mac, you spend another couple of $1,000 on some decent plug-in stuff, and there you go. You can make record. You can certainly process records, make mixes of things as well as anybody could if you've got the skill set. So
yeah.
So doing albums in my bedroom is fine, kind of thing. To be honest, it's the same if I, my mixing the recent stuff of like mixing Floyd things and stuff like that. That's how it starts off. Most of 90% of it is me in my bedroom mixing it, and then I get together with David and say, okay, this is where I've got to. What do you think? What do you want to change? And he'll do what he wants to it, and there we go. But things like, I don't know, Oh, all the later years stuff, like the remix of Momentary, Lapse of Reason and Delicate Sound of Thunder.
Yeah.
That was most of that was done in my bedroom.
Amazing.
It's well, I don't have to go anywhere that way. Just get up in the
That's
morning.
right. Yeah.
Don't leave the house.
Yeah. You are there in your pajamas.
Yeah,
In the morning, drinking tea or coffee or whatever.
Yeah, I get dressed. I have some standards.
Yeah. Some years ago as well, in 2014, you end up releasing, I think, your first album called Signal to Noise. It's a very good album as well. It's a more progressive, if you will, compared to the last. The last two. Yeah. Feel free to elaborate how that came together, with the motivation to put that together. How long does it take? And so.
How long did it take? I don't know. Probably the same sort of thing of on and off for over a year. I don't know. It's just same thing. I'd ended up joining a band. Many years ago, I did a few albums with a British goth band, Fields of the Nephilim, and I'd stayed friendly, particularly with Tony, the bass player. And he brought a project to me that he'd done with another guy and some singers, the Eden House, which was a kind of recording project. And he brought me the album to master. And I did that, and we were chatting, and he was talking about, what they're going to do next. And he said, "Do you want to be in the band?" It's like, okay, all right. Because they needed to expand it to have enough people to be able to play it, perform it live. And they needed another guitarist. And he asked me to do it. It's like, okay, all right. And that turned into, I suppose I was in the band for about 3 years, and we did a few recording projects and played a bunch of gigs and things, right back at the, driving 4 hours in a van with the gear to go and do a gig and loading, carrying your own equipment and all that kind of stuff, right back to the beginning. Which was great. I really enjoyed it, but it had run its course for me, and I decided to stop. And then I really wanted to carry on making some music, so I just, that's when the decision was made to make my own stuff. And I initially wrote a song or two and tried having someone else sing it. I tried one of the singers from Eden House originally. But I decided that the singer is such a central identity to a project that it needed to be me. So I did a bit of exercises from the internet, singing exercises, and committed to singing it myself, which I found really difficult and an unpleasant process. Just, did what comes natural to me. Wrote some songs and made an album. It was all, same. And again, just in my bedroom, different bedroom, because I'd moved. I wasn't living in the same place. But and not much more to say about it than that. And signal to noise is a phrase that comes from audio engineering. In a lot of other engineering, it is just. And I just used it as an analogy from the idea of sorting out what's important from all the rubbish in life. Really, that's what the title alludes to. And a lot of the songs are about that, but they're just about whatever caught my attention, to be honest. Really. So, and very often my girlfriend would come to me with like, "Oh, this is interesting," about something she'd read or something like that, and that would kick off an idea, and then work on some lyrics, and follow. Some things don't work out, some things do. So it was just wanting to. I've always made on and off. I mean, there's actually more albums in the past that never came out that I made, which are still sort of sitting there, not doing anything.
You should give it to the esoteric.
Oh, not now,
guys.
No, it's all no.
They want to put it out. Like Andy Jackson box set.
Retrospective, yeah. Well, no, I think I've lost everything in it.
You need to look back to the old computer, maybe somewhere on a tape.
Yeah, no, God, yeah. I think that's well gone. No, he didn't. No, never look back. Always look forward. So, yeah. I know.
All right. If you didn't become a musician or record engineer, what would you be doing right now if you?
I don't know.
Music
Don't know. I was before I decided to get a job in a recording studio. I was going to go and go to university and study metallurgy. It's like that's what I was due to do. So you know, I don't know. You better be working for a chemical company making plastic. I don't know. I have no idea.
You didn't get any no pressure from your family, from your dad, your mom saying you were 18 years old, ready to finish high school, and you have an inclination for music. Your parents telling you, "Oh, forget about music. Don't be a musician. You're never going to make any money. Go to the uni." And
no, I don't think my dad was in a position to do that because he'd left school at the earliest possible opportunity with no qualifications at all. I mean, he's a very bright man.
Wow.
And sort of had 20 jobs in his first year, and the last one was working at a newspaper. And he thought, "I like this," and he was there for the rest of his life. So
that's right. Wow.
He did the same thing, and they were absolutely just live your own life, you know.
Mm.
So
do what makes you happy, you know.
Yeah.
And if you can make a good living out of it, why not, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I've always, encouraged. I've got grown-up daughters now, and I've always encouraged them to do the same thing. Just live your own life, you know. For better or worse, you know, we all stumble through life, and sometimes we fall over and raise our knee, and it's just like,
absolutely.
Well, that's all part of it, you know. Here you
that's
are,
right.
Yeah, here you are in a different country, you know, and
that's right.
And it's it's all a great adventure, and some of it you get right, and some of it you get horribly wrong, and just that's the way it goes. So, and if you know what would have happened if you turned left instead of turning right at some point, it's just like, well, you may be in a different place, but you end up, I suppose, gathering together the experiences that you need to become the person that you are. And if you don't find them in one place, you find them in somewhere else, you know. So I don't know, could all get very philosophical about paths through life, but yeah. No, that's what happened. And here I am, for better or worse.
Yeah, all right. All right, Andy, I think we've been talking for an hour. So I think for part 2, we will revisit the Pink Floyd days from the beginning, from the album. I'm quite sure you have a lot of great stories to tell. Some stuff you could tell on a record, some stuff you couldn't tell on a record. But it's a great band. You know, it's Pink Floyd, one of the best bands in the history of the world, the history of music. So, and you were part of it. You know, although nowadays so much, I don't know, politics involved between Roy and David. They send texts to one another. I don't know, they are behaving like a babies, if you ask me. I don't know. Easy for me to say, but I when you are at 70-something their age and you have done well financially, you tour all over the world. What difference does it make if Roy Waters he want to create his own version of the Dark Side of the Moon, and then they send texts and tweet at 3:00 in the morning? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think nearly everybody, and that includes me, is just like, it's like, why don't you stop it? You know, I don't know. It's just, I can't really say anything, obviously, because I'm still involved, but it's just, I don't think any of us find it makes anything better. Really.
No,
Just give me a sec, please.
No problem. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I wish. Then again, easy for me to say. I'm not on the shoe, but make peace with your bandmate, for people that you were together in the same room for many years. I don't know. It's Roy Waters now is it's like, you know, political spectacle in many ways. Of course, I love. He's a very talented person, the great band of the world, you know, Pink Floyd. 50% is politics, and I don't. And of course, I pay expensive ticket to see them. It's a great show. The light, the sound is great, and everything. But I don't know. He have changed a lot, I think. You know.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much I'm going to say about this, and
Yeah.
I suppose, just the same as a lot of people, it's just, it would be great if it was different. That's all.
Yeah.
But I mean, anybody that knows Roger and David, I mean, it's the unstoppable force and the immovable object, really, and that's always been the case.
Yeah.
And anybody that knows them will know which one's which as well. So,
Yeah. Hopefully, one day I will have the chance to meet them and never met them or interview them. You know, maybe one day. My time is, you know, I need to do it soon because eventually people will retire and they won't, you know, they will really retire, and you know, I won't be able to get a hold of them. But hopefully, I would like to meet them one day and talk, have a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, or something, you know. So
it's interesting, really, the approach that Nick's taken, which is just, well, you know, just have some fun with what's left of it all and what he's doing.
That's right.
I mean, I've never heard anything he's done with Saucer Full of Secrets, but you know, I know I speak to Guy occasionally. I know, and they're having a ball. They're enjoying doing it. You know, it's just fun. Okay, all right. That's another approach to it, really. Which it's funny that it's Nick that's the one that sort of keeps active, really. But he likes doing it. He just likes doing it. That's all. He's doing what he likes.
Absolutely. All right, Andy, it was very nice talking to you. I will send you a link to the interview later on or tomorrow, and then I will send you an email so we can coordinate so we can do part 2, and then we start talking about all the Pink Floyd stuff from the beginning and your involvement and on the record, which is great music. And you have done you're very humble, like every Englishman. They're very humble compared to Americans here across the ocean, and you know, you have done well, man.
Thank you. Yep, sure. Okay. Well, whenever you like. So cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. It was very nice talking to you.
Thank you. Cheers.